Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's my little buddy Dorger. It's Tom. How you doing, sir?
Hello, friends.
I
You can
told you I
just
wasn't
drop
gonna forget.
you can just drop it, Vince. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your little jokes.
Everybody likes the joke, Tom. Everybody likes the joke. All right. Also joining us, of course, it is the one, the only. It's Dan Heelan from HeelanHammer. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not bad. I suppose I should say yo, yo, yo. But yeah, hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's all good fun.
You have your own opening catchphrase as well. Absolutely, always a good time. And you've got the constant branding because when you tweet it out, it's always the yo 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 as well. So I like that. Yeah. That's solid. Everybody's you gotta have an opening thing.
You got something, yeah.
Exactly. Today, Dan is joining us for what is quickly becoming a holiday tradition, the second year in a row. So at this point, I'm just going to say, look forward to it for many years to come, apparently, to our year in review. So we're all going to look back at 2016, talk about the highs and lows, and look forward to next year and what we want to see. But of course, first the news, because boy, oh boy, is there some news. So Tom, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm not going to bury the lead. The big news this week that dropped was the Tzeentch release. That is imminent. They had an 80-minute long video event this morning, 8 Eastern our time here in the States. I think it was 1 o'clock UK time. And started with about 800 viewers and ended with about 1,100. And they went through all things Tzeentch that's kind of coming. They set up the narrative with this is going to be kind of Tzeentch's play or his gambit for the realms, with both Nurgle and Khorne kind of having been defeated. This is he is moving in. He's infiltrated the cities that are rising up, and with cults and stuff like that. And it looks amazing. The battle tome, 136 pages. It's going to be for everybody's Tzeentch keyworded. So both your Arcanites, which we've seen just a handful of at this point, but as well our Tzeentch demons and Tzeentch mortals. And so there's a whole bunch of allegiance abilities and a bunch of new units. And let me pull up some graphics real quick for us.
While you're pulling that up, I want to ask Dan. So Dan,
yeah.
did you get a chance to watch? And what do you think? Are you excited about the Tzeentch release?
Yeah, so I've got to be a little bit careful because being very, very privileged and being on the playtest team, I've seen this. So I've got to, I don't know what they announced. So, but having had the book in my hand, I'd be super excited about what's coming. But I'm interested to see what they did before I tell you before I comment on what did they talk about.
Sure, absolutely.
They pretty much spoiled the whole book. Just feel free to just run on any details you want to share. I'm sure it would be just repeating it. It's no problem. No. Go ahead,
you're a terrible person, Vince. Okay. So they showed the book.
Yep.
They talked about
change there.
Yeah, that was the Lord of Change.
Can we just get the new Lord of Change model already? Let's talk about that.
I bet if you rewatch the video, you'll see me on the sidelines begging for the last 3 minutes of please post the new please show the new Lord of Change model. Please show it. Come on,
right.
Do it. Release him from the warp. Show the Lord of Change model.
Yeah,
and they never did. They said more is coming. It's going to happen in January. They said that this army is actually going to be played by Ben, maybe, in one of the upcoming Wednesday events. To demonstrate the army.
Very nice.
They said that this is going to be about the book is going to be different than the prior battle tomes. They're going to be bridging the sub factions. With this, they said that. Sorry, I have a whole page of notes here. I'm trying to skim through. They're doing Path to Glory in the book this time. So you see a number of the units here that have been so-called been spoiled. So we see the horrors on the far right, the Zangors, and the types of things we saw from Warhammer Quest. We see some new units, the Zangor Enlightened and the Zangor Skyfires, as well as on the left, we see stuff like the Fate Master, the Magister, and the Curseling, which is likely, some of these are likely renamed units.
Yeah, the Curseling is what's his name, who who has the little buddy growing on his shoulder. I don't remember what his name is.
Vitalich or Vitalich or something. I think it's something like that. And then they showed some of the units. They showed the Zangor Shaman. They showed the Skyfire. I don't know why the image is not here. I had it here. They showed a number of the different units, the rules. They revealed 2 lores. This is a glimpse into the lore of Fate. There are going to be 2 lores, a lore of Fate and a lore of Change. Change is going to be associated with the demons, and it's going to be more offensive and fiery, Bernie based. The lore of Change, and then the lore of Fate is going to be more tricksy and more kind of manipulative, and that's going to be associated with the Arcanites and / the Mortals. With that, the different commanders are going to have different command traits based on whether they're Arcanite, Demon, or Mortal, and so that's this chart here with some sweet abilities. And you're going to notice there are a lot of shared abilities, some different. You'll see like this second ability next is a Fate, helps you manipulate these dice called Destiny Dice, which is their allegiance ability. I think that we're going to see a lot of armies on the tournament scene show up with as Tzeentch armies because of this new alliance trait. Vince, are you familiar with it? Have I talked about it with you?
Yeah, the roll 9 dice at the start of the game, and you can, over the course of the game, replace. Basically, you get 9 dice at the start of the game, you keep them to a side, and then over the course of the game, on that list of rolls you see in the middle column there, right?
Yep.
You can choose to expend one of your destiny die to replace it, whatever it happened to roll, with one of those.
Which is really powerful. Like anybody knows in the kind of on the tournament scene, dependability and reliability are essential aspects of any tournament army, and this Tzeentch is going to be able to literally make a turn go just as planned. So yeah, it looks good. Like I said, there's going to be a couple of different lores that are dropping. Points are going to be included in the book this time. Overall, it looks amazing. What have your impressions been, Dan, that you can share with us?
Yeah, just given what you've seen here and what you thought about the book. You don't have to get into any spoilers, nothing like that. No,
that's cool. What models did they show out of interest?
None. 0 models. They just showed the art. So, like, for example, we got the 2 art pieces that we've seen already, which is this one and like with zoom ins on the Zangor and stuff like that. We didn't get to see any demons, any lore of Change. We didn't get to see,
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So the battle trait obviously you've seen. I think is I remember seeing it in the early days, and I was really excited by it. And I think it's strong, as you say, and I think it's really characterful. But I like it. I love. I've always been a fan of like resource mechanics where you've got something to manage, and I love it. I think it's great. So the book's something special. I think it's going to be really, really good. Really good, but I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. Probably, but I'm sure they'll spill some more beans as the next couple of weeks go over. But it's great.
Yeah, we saw the Skyfire. What the things that excited me, that just from what I've seen, are disc rider units, which I've been calling for surfer units for a long time. I already had pre-converted some Chaos Warriors riding Screamers, and I use them as like Varangard and such. So I love surfer models, so I'm happy to see more people on discs like as a unit concept. I think that's cool as all get out. I love the shaman on the disc. We'll talk about how that pieces up with the rumor here in a minute. But all in all, I love most everything I've seen. And here's the thing, Tom, that and this is probably something we can all discuss. To me, I just sent you a email by the way.
I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, you may want to take a look at that image. We can talk about it in a minute, but there you go. So we can talk about this. This was apparently a piece of art from the book or something. And the point that somebody made looking at this piece of art was that's not a Fire Slayer. No.
It's funny because this is actually where I was gonna launch into this from this art piece, or even the lore of where we're at. Like I have a prediction of where we're going, with this Tzeentch release. Maybe I'll save it for when we talk about this week,
Sure.
where we're actually going to be moving towards.
Yeah, go for your future predictions with stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I'll save that one.
Okay. So I love the dwarf there. I think that's cool. That's a nice hint to, the dwarven release, which we feel strongly is coming. It's been rumored forever, and blah, the rumor engine in the very first one looked like a dwarvy thing and so on. What I love about this battle tome is the following. This corrects what I call the extremist chamber problem, right? And the extremist chamber and the Everchosen books, like, they were both neat battle tomes, but they were so thin in what they were actually functionally doing. Like, I loved the art, I loved the story. That was all good, but I do want some crunch with my fluff too, right? And those books are both pretty thin. Whereas now we're getting all the different, the different Tzeentch sub-factions shoved together. Now, if I'm into Tzeentch, I've got this all-in-one battle tome, and I think this is way smarter because it encourages me. Like, I have a huge Tzeentch mortal army, right? Massive. And by putting them all into one tome, I'm probably going to buy this tome, right? Because I have a big Tzeentch mortal army. It's one of my favorite armies. Of course, I'm going to go out and buy the battle tome for my army. Now I'm encouraged to expand into some demons and into some Arcanites because they're all there in the book, right? Whereas if this was 3 battle tomes or something, I would just ignore the other 2. I mean, does that make sense to both of you?
Absolutely.
What do you think, Dan? Is this a herald of things to come? Do you foresee them going this direction? I mean, I think they said as much that the battle tome is continuing to evolve. Let me ask it this way: do you feel this is a good direction? I'll ask.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think for all the reasons you've said, it's great, and it's a pretty special tome. This one, I think.
Yeah, I love the path to glory inclusion. I love that we're still pointing to that because it still says, look, hey, there's not one way to play, right? And that's what's awesome about it to me. All right. So what else you got, Tom?
Absolutely. And let's see. We had confirmation of some of the rumors that we've seen, or not rumors, the rumor engine segments that have been dropped the last couple of weeks. We've had confirmation of what those images are. Vince, do you have those images?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring them up here. Yeah, the long and short of it was, we saw that 3 of the 5, right? We have a solid answer to now.
Yes.
So let me bring those up. Here we go.
So for those that guessed that little well face, like the face of the soul face, was in a disc. Myself, Vince, and a couple other people that I know of off the top of my head had guessed that one.
So we'll start with this little skeleton key thing that is on this big 10,000-year-old Admech guy. Somebody said this is what happens. This is what it looks like if you crossed Admech with a Skaven Hell Pit Abomination. I don't think that's wrong. I think this guy looks like a nightmare to paint. I don't even. Oh my god, so many little bits and bobs. Yeah, no joke. So many bits and bobs. Oh my goodness, what a masterpiece of sculpting and a nightmare of painting. All right. So let's talk about this. So there's the disc.
Yep.
There you can see that. So very nice there. And the hole was clearly his little foothold, right? Yep. That the hole we saw was where his little foot. Let me also draw attention to the mini screamers.
Yeah, the baby screamers.
Yeah, the baby screamers of Tzeentch. How adorable is that? I think that's adorable. Okay. And then finally, over here, now we've got our shaman who had his little eye staff. Just as we had said, it was a Tzeentchy eye. So there you go. Yep. That's 3 out of the 5. So we still have the dwarf one and the other. Like I just, there's no way that one's not dwarf. And
no, it is dwarf.
One, yeah. And then the other one that we don't like. There's lots of whatever around. So
yeah, like last week we had talked about like dark elves. Somebody had pointed out that the pattern looked like Eldar. With the new, is it Cassian Gate or something? That would point towards Dark Eldar. Somebody had mentioned on one of the threads. I'm not familiar with 40K enough to identify that.
You're talking about Acadian.
Acadian, there you go. And so that's potentially that. One of the called shots that I made was that I actually think that it's Dark Elves, but I think we'll probably see a twist. Shadowkin, rather. I think we'll see a twist. I'm of the mindset at this point, I think we're looking at a sub-faction of elves that are not order. I actually think that we might be seeing some death elves. The purple is the same purple that like the priests of Moor and stuff like that have always been painted in. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And I posted a big theory about it, and I interacted with somebody that seems to have some knowledge of one of the rumor mongers, and he seemed to suggest that I wasn't fully wrong with what I had suggested it was. So we'll see.
There you go.
There you go. The rumor engine. Okay. Rules for the Greater Exalted Demons dropped this week. I would be lying if I have not already picked up the Great Unclean One. And it's being shipped right now. Vince, Dan, what were some of your opinions on the new Exalted Greater Demons that dropped?
I'll let Dan go first.
In terms of the models or the rules?
Yes.
I wasn't that blown away by the rules. I'll be completely honest. I felt they're a little bit vanilla for what they are. I know I've seen mixed opinions online about them. Obviously, the models are this Forge World is great, isn't it? Have we got points at this stage? I don't think we have we?
We don't. I have not seen them. No. They said they were working on them, but we haven't actually seen the actual point values yet.
No. I think with the way they operate, it comes from a different place. I don't know if we'll see them or not. So, but yeah, the rules are okay. They're okay. They give you something to play with, doesn't it? In your open play or your narrative play, you're gonna have to guess the points otherwise. So, but yeah, I wasn't blown away. But I think some people will just. Well, I'd imagine the majority of people grab them because of the cool models that are available.
Yeah, I'll say I was happier with them because certainly I felt like the old Greater Demons, exempting the Bloodthirsters variety, right, were not very impressive, I guess. Certainly, rules wise, certainly like the certainly the Keeper got a lot better, right? Like she's much scarier now, but. In the end, I'll reserve final judgment until I see, it's not that points is the only world that matters, but points matters for part of the world, right? It's in my computation. And if those things come out and they're like 500 points, I'm going to be like, well, that's not worth it. Right. Yeah. But if the Keeper's goes from, she's currently 280. If she goes up to 380 or 400, sure. I'll put her on the table. It's fine.
Yeah, I felt very similarly about the Great Unclean One. I've always been, we had this conversation about Nurgle last week. I've always been a firm hater of the Great Unclean One, even though it showed up in the top 5 at Blood and Glory. I think it's a terrible, terrible general, and for a variety of reasons. As a leader for Nurgle, but the new one, what I would say is that if he's pointed correctly. I would field him because it gives Nurgle something that it's desperately needed, which is a 3+ save monster that is decently wounded, that has decent toughness and survivability, and that can put out some damage. Obviously, his big attack is still tied to his wounds, so that's a problem for any monster. But I would probably field him, assuming that he's pointed correctly.
Sure. So. Yeah, that's a reserve judgment thing, but I like him. It's great. It didn't blow me away, but it's final call to be. It's a good start. There you go, Tom. I agree completely. It's a good start. All right, what else we got?
And then finally, Saint Celestine and Plastic Sisters they dropped this week the images, and that's a big deal. Even if you're not 40K.
I haven't seen those on Twitter actually at all. Only 9 million times in a few hours.
Yeah. There we go.
Retweet some more. I haven't seen.
At Mark the Beastman, I think is where you want to send those. I'm pretty sure he collects images of sisters. So everybody, I'll drop that in the comments. You can all tweet this.
They are sweet though, aren't they? Look at them. Beautiful models.
I'm telling you, as I mentioned before the show, take these 2 girls right here. Let's go ahead and pull that gun out of their hands, right? That's easy enough. And let's put the prosecutor wings on. Done and done. Call it a day. Like you said, the little prosecutor laser wings would look perfect on these girls.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned using her as the new Celestin Prime. And I'm like, yep.
Looks like a good, some nice female Stormcast. I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful.
Yep. Those and the Sisters of Silence. So, general news. We have the weekly Warhammer Weekly Giving Extravaganza continuing to go on for those of you guys that are just tuning in this week that aren't familiar with it. Well, I'm going to put Vince on the spot because he's turned away from the camera.
Hold on. It's okay. I'm getting something. Okay.
Vince, how about you tell us about...
oh, my God. This thing is heavy. Good God almighty. All right. So, yes, the Warhammer Weekly Extravaganza of Giving for Christmas. Tom and I are doing a charity drive. You can find the link in the description below. It's actually there right now. I figured out I could do this before the show. So you can make a donation through Everyday Heroes to UNICEF. That's the charity we're supporting. They help children that are displaced by refugee crisis and other terrible situations that happen around the world, which I can't think of a more horrible thing during the holidays than being bombed or something out of your home. So they help orphan children and other displaced families. And if you donate any amount of money through the link below, not only can you ask a question, any question, and Tom and I will answer every question after the new year. No matter how embarrassing, no matter how ridiculous, you can put us on the spot. All this will be answered publicly. So you can absolutely embarrass us. But as well, if you donate any amount of money, and by the way, only donate, please, if you have the means. I know not everybody has the means to donate, and that's perfectly okay. If you can't, please just share the video or something like that. Or give it a like. That's always deeply appreciated. But for everybody who does donate, we're giving away prizes. I'm giving away one of the display figures for competition I painted, the Dark Oath Chieftain. I'm giving away an old metal orc and goblin army. We're giving away several boxes of like Lord of the Rings stuff, including the Eagles and the Trolls. And a good friend of mine, thank you, special shout out to Tom Broker, thank you, sir, donated the Ogre Mega Army from Kings of War. So this is the whole army, new in bag, as it were. That will go to somebody who donates. Again, any amount is fine, even $1. And he also was nice enough to donate this, and this is what I was struggling with. Good God, this thing is like 100 pounds. So this is like a new in-box Space Hulk. So if you donate, you're also entered in to win this Space Hulk, which I fear the shipping on this thing. Good God almighty. All right. So there we go. Check out the link if you can give. We would deeply appreciate it. There you go.
As well, the Warhammer YouTuber End of Year Awards is still going on. The voting is open for those that want to vote for content, whether it be various shows that they've enjoyed, people who provided interesting or thought-provoking content. There's a best painted as well as best conversion. There's a number of different categories. I would encourage you guys to go check out the nominee. Was it the nominee video?
The nomination video. Both the nomination video and the survey link to vote will be down below. I want to see us beat last year's number of voters. So get out there, make your voice heard. Do it. Do it now. 3. All right, don't do it this exact second, but all right, after the show. All right, there you go.
And then likewise, I think it's worth mentioning that the TGA community is likewise doing an end of year award. They're calling it the Age of Sigmar Community Champion Award 2016. They're currently in the nomination phase. Dan, our guest, has been nominated. Him and Wayne and Russ for their variety of contributions, as well as we have also been nominated already. But I want to encourage you guys to go, and if you know somebody who has really contributed to the hobby, has really contributed to the content of AOS and supporting the game, make sure to go give them a shout out. We'll have the link to the thread below. After Christmas, the nominations will turn into a survey, maybe a poll. I don't know. I don't know what's happening on the other side of this, but hey, if you know somebody, go give them a shout out for their significant contributions to the hobby.
There you go. I like it.
That's
all right. That's the news. Very good. So then that turns to our pick of the week, where we pick a podcast, a blog, a video, something like that, and share it with people, including shameless self-promotion, if you like. So, Dan, we'll start with you, sir. What would you like to share out there with the community?
Well, I think it it is shameless self-promotion, but probably, I'm just looking at the time now in the UK, so probably tomorrow morning, actually, by the time we finish this, there is going to be a podcast going out by ourselves at HeelanHammer.com and all the usual threads. And we've got Jervis Johnson from Games Workshop on for an interview, about an hour long, talking all things hobby. It doesn't matter whether you're into Age of Sigmar, 40k, whatever. I mean, obviously we're an Age of Sigmar podcast, but I really enjoyed doing that, and I know Wayne did, and I think the content we got was great. So I'd encourage anybody to go and check that out. I know it's a bit of a future one, but and self promoting, but you know, hey ho, I think it's a good one. So go and check it out.
Absolutely, I can't wait to see that hit my feed. So I'm very excited. I'm sure that'll be an awesome one. Tommy, what do you got?
I'm gonna promote Warhammer TV. For those of you guys that are not familiar with the Twitch feed that has dropped in the last week, it is worth checking out. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you get a free subscription on Twitch. Go check out the Warhammer TV feed on Twitch.
Yeah, it's really funny to watch it, like watching it live, because I kept seeing has subscribed through Twitch Prime, has subscribed through Twitch Prime, has subscribed through Twitch Prime, and I'm like, yep, there you go, good call.
It's a pretty exciting deal at the moment, isn't it? Warhammer TV. Really I think people are into it, and we were talking off air actually just before we came on about YouTube and Warhammer being in its infancy. Really, I know there's people who have been doing it for years, but it's not like it is, say, with a more established podcast market. And I think that the Games Workshop guys getting involved with that is fantastic. I mean, you can see the amount of people that are in there watching it. I mean, in the middle of the day today, it was about 1,000 people, wasn't it? Talking, you mentioned earlier about the Tzeentch stuff. When we were looking in the when it went live last week, there's a couple of thousand people in there. A lot of people hanging out as well in the chat, talking rubbish as well, which is quite good fun. So it does seem to be a really good community resource, really.
Yeah, what's amazing to me and what I think is awesome, first of all, I think the Prime thing is great, and I think that it's amazing to see that number get held, right? What I mean by that is that, it went from basically last week being free to now being behind the minimal paywall or whatever, and yet you still see a lot of activity, a lot of action. Clearly a lot of people have stepped on board, so that's really, really cool. I think that's fantastic. So there you go. My pick of the week is actually going to be a diffused set of picks, and it's going to be like this. Because the Warhammer YouTubers end of year awards are out, I've encouraged all nominees to make shameless self-promoting nomination videos of themselves, promoting themselves to the community. And I have gotten several awesome ones that have been posted up. So I'm going to go try to aggregate all of them together and throw them in the comments to this video so you can watch them all. And if you are a nominee who has not yet made your own shameless self-promotion video, what are you doing? Are you letting your opponents outspend you? In this, the most important political race of 2016? I think you are. Don't let that happen. Okay?
Well, fine then, Vince. Viewers, I am actually have been nominated for...
I didn't say you could hijack this show, Tom. You got to make your own video, all right?
But your feed has so many more subscribers.
I can't help that. You built your channel. Tom is also nominated. There you go. You can check him out. That's what you're getting, Tom. You got to make your own video beyond that.
I will.
Good.
Maybe.
So I'll pull all those together. All right. So now let's talk about some hobby time. Dan, what have you been working on, sir? What's on your table?
It's a good time to talk about it, I suppose. So Blood Bowl came out. So I was just looking if I could put it. It's like camera. I'm not used to this. I'm normally talking to a brick wall. Can I find a model? No, it's too far away. I was working on a Blood Bowl miniature just for fun. So that's got half done. I've got half painted Dark Oak Chieftain in the cupboard that's been there for months as well for the similar thing. I started it for fun. So I've had all those. But I recently, so this story probably isn't known actually because we haven't recorded a podcast on it yet. But Wayne and I were in a car crash. So we're up at Games Workshop about a month ago. And on the way back, we were in a car accident and our armies are in the boot. My Lizardmen army that I've had many years, mostly 5th edition metals, is in about 1,000 pieces now. It was in the boot when we...
Oh, no!
Quite a large impact. So... that's gone, and although it's repairable, it would take some considerable time, and I just don't have the heart in me. So at the minute, that's gone into the garage. So I'm actually starting a new project over Christmas, depending on when the army turns up. So hoping, I know what it is. It's Sylvan F. So I'm just waiting with the post to see when if it's going to get here this week, which I'm fingers crossing, or whether it's going to be next week. But yeah, start with Sylvaneth, mate, for two reasons. One, I'm a long term. It's odd. I'm not really a naturist as such. So, like, if you see me in real life and mention I want to go camping or something, like, no, go book me in a hotel. But whenever I'm in games, so like World of Warcraft, my character's a druid, and all these kind of things. It's always nature based, and so I had wood elves for many years and never revisited them really. And the second one is it's super quick to paint. Big old dry brush. I'm thinking, in fact, if I got here, look. There you go. Look at that! Look at that bad boy. That's going across the models, and that and some washes would be fine, I think. So yeah, so that's coming up. That'd be exciting.
That's fantastic. I can tell you, as somebody who just finished up Sylvaneth Army here, you're exactly right. It's super fun to paint. It's so you can just, and like color wise, the sky's the limit. You can go nuts and stuff, So it's really fun to play. Like, it's banging on all cylinders. Great battle tome, good fun to play, good to paint. There's no downsides to Sylvaneth. I love them. So there you go.
I think there's an interesting gaming challenge with it as well, because I mean, I've played it against a couple of times at different points levels, and at certain points levels they're fantastically competitive, and at like 2,000 points, sometimes I just don't know how good they are. So I really want to play them because they've got some tricksy stuff in there, and I think it could be good fun. So yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, it's a bit of an onion army where like you start to realize all these different layers of weird tricks you can pull with like making forests and moving people around and teleporting people to board edges and then within the forest and stuff like that. So it's a shockingly mobile army in unusual ways. So yeah, it can go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say the other thing, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter this week, is in the UK, I know they were doing it on stream, Blood and Glory. Have you seen the Sylvaneth Wildwoods?
Yes.
People were running them out in a big long line like that, and teleporting from the back end to one, and all these shenanigans basically are illegal. And didn't want to hear that it's illegal, but it is illegal. And I hopefully Games Workshop will come out and clear it up. I'm sure they will. But Ben Johnson on Twitter, who's people may or may not know works for Games Workshop, tweeted some brilliant pictures of this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. So hopefully people will start to clear the discussion up now. So but yeah, he's one of the ones that's got a few queries because of the amount of tricks I think you can do with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I came to the conversation late on Twitter yesterday, and somebody alerted me to it, and I was like, what is the issue? And so I reread the rules, and for those that don't know the conversation, basically on the scroll it says that all the forest footprints have to be deployed within 1 inch of each other, which means that all of them have to be touching each other. So rather than having like one in the middle and two on the side, all three have to be within 1 inch of the other two. And so
the landing strip is like an air,
yes.
like a runway people were doing.
Yes.
People love to stretch rules. Like it's one of those things I would have never thought of. I would have just made a woods. Like that's a woods. You make a woods. There it is. But hey, there it is. It wouldn't be the game if people didn't try to push all the boundaries. That's fine. Sometimes you push and you discover a new crazy winning strategy, and sometimes you push and you're breaking rules. That's the fun of the game. So yeah, I loved that picture. That really summed it up nice. I know I saw Ben tweet that one. There was like legal, check mark, illegal, bad, no, X.
Yeah. If anyone knows, he knows. So they should be listened to.
Yep. I like it. All right. That's awesome. Tom, what about yourself? What are you working on, buddy?
Well, funny story. For those of you guys that know, I'm headed to Holy Havoc in 8 weeks or so from now. And it came out this week, yesterday, and then again today, some pretty tragic, or not tragic, well, for some people they're tragic, some pretty dramatic or drastic changes in composition rules for Holy Havoc. And so, which it has changed my list and added almost doubled the number of models that I need to paint for February. So yeah, that's happening. So I'm assembling some of my Marauder conversions right now for that event. It makes me sad.
That's very funny. So you're getting to paint more models. Steve is doing you a favor.
I'm putting them together right now. And let me just say, I love my conversion. I had a good idea and I already had the bits and everything assembled, sitting in my box. So I'm putting them together and I'm like, wow, these look really good. I hate that I'm gonna have to rush and paint all of these within a moment's notice. But I'm excited that for what they're gonna look like, hopefully when I get done. So we'll see. The other sad thing is that all those Nurgle Furies that I finished, like I'm only going to be able to take some of those those conversions.
Do
I know,
Furies
like,
exist in AOS? You very rarely see them, do you?
Well, I have them, and they're amazing. I did a conversion. I showed in the show last week, and they're my favorite Nurgle conversion that I've ever done. Let's see if I can find them real quick. Sorry, this is self-promotion. I apologize, folks.
Well, I'll tell you what.
What's your hobby?
Yeah, there you go. You can dig around, Tom, and I'll fill the dead air you're creating. So what I am working on right now is a unit that's going to be for competition for sometime next year, although I don't know exactly what yet. But I'm working on a Malifaux crew, Rasputina's crew. So I just finished up the Ice Golem here. I think he came out pretty fun. Got a couple other models, and then I've got the girl herself on my desk. She's just started. So, yep, that's what I've got. But there's so much, like, I'm officially don't want any more models. The thing I'm most excited about, and Dan, I know I tweeted this out, and I saw you had seen it, but I was surprised yesterday for Christmas because somebody gave me the Playmobil like Gladiator Arena, which we had seen last year at Adepticon. Arena Rex uses it for their demo games. It's this massive, like it is super massive arena that just looks like the Roman Colosseum, but it's like a Playmobil, kids toy for Legos or whatever. And I'm going to take it and paint it and weather it and make a big giant real Colosseum. So that'll happen.
It did look great at Adepticon, that, didn't it, on their stand? They had some amazing paint jobs done for their products, but seeing it played in that obviously tied up, not just out of the box, but thing was great. So yeah, should look good.
Yep, I can't wait for that. So that's going to be a fun one. That might end up being like a display board for some kind of army, right? I just need to figure out like what's going to be the theme army that fits inside there. Maybe I'll build the whole army around the display board. Maybe that's the right way to go about it.
Do a Khorne Gore Chosen army.
Yeah, for the arena, then I need to splatter blood everywhere and everything. And I already have a Khorne army, so I don't know. I'll think about it. All right.
So here's my Nurgle Furies, by the way.
I like them. They look cool.
Yeah, I was super happy with these conversions, and now I'm only going to be able to take like some of them. Very disappointingly, some of them. So
are they on 32 mil bases?
No, those are on 25s.
Just sub them in for Plague Bearers. No one will complain. They look great.
No, that's true. That's true. So, anyways, I did these guys. I could potentially do them for Harpies, but nobody's going to field Harpies either. So, oh well, doesn't matter. It'll be fun. They'll be fun to do anyways. So I'll do some of these for Holy Havoc, and then I'll do some for something else. I don't know what.
Good bits explosion. All right. So let's turn to some feature segments, shall we, gentlemen? Let's talk about 2016, the year that was. So this is a funny thing, right? This is sort of the strange dichotomy of life. Everybody is, there's a thing going around right now in popular culture of like, oh, 2016, it's so horrible. Everything's terrible. And I'm like, well, it's not, I'm not trying to downplay all the bad stuff that happened in the world. Certainly there was. But
Zsa Gabor just died.
She was 99. Okay. Sometimes it is your time. I'm sorry. Mortality is a thing. That's not any way trying to be mean to Zsa Gabor, who I loved. She was on Green Acres, right? She was the one on Green Acres. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I love Green Acres. I watched the heck out of that when I was a kid. Anyways, neither here nor there. For Warhammer, it's been a great year. That's going to be my ultimate argument. So before we get into the deets, let's high level. Overall, what do you think? Good year, thumbs up, thumbs down, restricted to your wargaming life. Yeah, that's a thumbs up, Dan?
Oh, yeah, massively. I think it's been where the game was to where it is, where we finished 2016 from an Age of Sigmar point of view is just a different world, isn't it? I think anybody who's been in the game since the somewhat rough launch would agree. Somewhat rough, and where we've ended up is communities all over the world. It just seems like a fantastic place, and obviously Games Workshop have really gone out on a limb and got themselves a community team and everything else, and really embracing the whole thing as well. And I think it's only onwards and upwards. But yeah, for me, it's been an amazing year. You can see the transition as well. If you look at, again, the launch, the books that were around at the launch, you guys mentioned the battle tomes and how some of the early releases, you know, to where we are now is a difference, isn't it? So I think that they've learned along the way, and we're seeing that. And I think it's been a great year. It's been a really great year.
You know, and that's a good point. I don't think it's like, I don't expect perfection, especially after such a big change right away. I would have liked to see many things different with the launch, but we can't go back in time. What I, at least, you know, I don't happen to have any, you know, flux capacitor around. So there we go. Until Doc pays me a visit, I'm stuck here. And the point is that, like, despite that, we've seen a lot of good movement, right? Every little step has been 100 steps in the right direction. The battle tomes are one more example. Like, the Sylvaneth was such a good tome. Like, when I bought that and got home and read through it, because I bought a couple of the earlier tomes too, totally different. Sea change of difference, right? I loved reading everything. I just felt like it was a ton of stuff to discover and explore while I was reading it. So knowing that they're hearing it and they're changing and going with it, that makes me very happy. Tom, what do you think? Overall, good year?
Yeah.
Wargaming.
Both personally, hobby wise, and then also like as GW AOS, like they've just done a bang up job throughout the year, and they're continuing to improve, which I think is the most significant part, is they are learning from where they've been and they are moving forward. And I love that.
Yeah, I agree. Ultimately, I think we've got to go far, and they've made a bunch of little steps to get there, right? We're walking down the right road here. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about some of that stuff. And we're going to talk about what we hope to see next year. Now, Dan, we'll let you do your tap dance around some of this stuff when we talk about next year. You can feel free to say no comment on anything. Of course, we don't want to put you under not trying to put you under the gun. So we'll start with looking back here. Let's look back on releases. Obviously, we had Fire Slayers, Extremis, Ogre, you know, the Beast Claw, Ironjawz, Bone Splitters, Sylvaneth. High level, like, what did you think of releases this year? Were you happy with them? What was your favorite release of the year? Let's start there. Dan, kick us off.
So my favourite release is an interesting one. I actually liked quite a few of the little like sub-faction-y type stuff. So Clan Pestilence book, big fan of that one. It's bizarre because some of the best books were some of the ones that I thought were going to be really rubbish. We said this on the show. You know, you looked at Clan Pestilence, a lot of old kits being rehashed. Really like what they did with the book there. I think the fluff's great. The book as a whole's got a nice art feel to it. That was quite cool. You had the other one, Bone Splitters to a degree. Bone Splitters I thought was going to be awful, but actually, aside from how underpointed it currently is in the game, and as a result quite powerful, it felt quite nice like that. And I think there was Flesh Eater Course is another great example of how that went. I think that was a good one. I don't know, do you guys, while I break quickly for a very British thing and take a cup of tea off my missus, what did you guys think about the Flesh Eaters? Thank you.
Tom, go ahead. What do you think of Flesh Eater Courts?
I think that, like, they pulled something off I didn't think that they would be able to do, which is to take and refresh and renew existing kits by throwing, you know, by their introduction of the heroes and kind of the converted parts, flipping around some parts that were already in the same kit. I loved it. Like, I loved it. Showed ingenuity. It showed flexibility as a company. And it was like, and things were compelling. Like, I look at the Flesh Eater Courts and I'm like, I'm in. Like, I didn't buy any, but I have a whole lot of death that I need to paint. But that said, like, it was a really compelling launch.
I think that was one of the ones that it just from a sort of you used the word high level, but from this sort of top level looking down in on the community, I think it was the book that got the most positive comments from one. Because I mean, Sylvaneth, actually, it's probably like as Sylvaneth got massive love, but in terms of something where I didn't expect it, I'd say the Flesh Eaters seemed like a really good success from all the people that jumped on board that, and it just something completely new from a sort of fluff perspective. So that was quite cool. You mentioned Fire Slayers. Fire Slayers, I think they suffer a little bit from where we are at the moment with the range. You know, I love them. I love the background. I love the artwork. Kevin Chin, I think, did quite a few bits in there that are really, really nice. And the book as a whole feels great. Read a lot of fluff around it, really nice. But you do suffer if you pick a reasonable force. If you're like a tournament gamer, I think, where there's not quite enough of it out there at the moment, and it's pretty dollar sign if you want to to buy a lot of infantry, because there's no getting started and things like that. But that was a cool release. I really enjoyed that.
Are they now? I'm not saying they're bad, but are they the loser of the releases of the year?
Oh no, you ever chosen surely, hands down, the
Well,
worst release.
hey, Ever Chosen was the prior year. That was 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like it's squeaked out at the end of December last year, right?
Yeah, that's how that, by the way, is how terrible that release was. Is that people don't actually remember when it dropped, and it was between, and I believe it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like it was actually in that week.
So the book's not far from me actually, and it doesn't fit on my shelf because I ordered the special edition one. It was my birthday's in December, so it must have been around December. So I bought it for my birthday, and I looked at it once and never looked at it again. The cool little tokens that are in it are really good though. But yeah, it was unfortunate. That was the single worst one for me, and then from then it just got better. I think it back to back made me a little bit sad because we had the Seraphim one, which is actually a cool tome. I just don't like the direction the fluff went on that, and then I had that one straight after it, so it was a little bit of a sad times. But then since then, I'm looking at them in a row now, and you think, Fire Slayers, Pestilence, Flesh Eaters, the extra Stormcast stuff we have, Bone Splitters, Beast Core, Silver. There's been some fantastic books. It's been really good.
That's so encouraging because I mean that sarcastically, because I actually have the Ever Chosen Collector's Edition being shipped to my house right now. so I look
enjoy the tokens; they're lovely.
Exactly. I look forward to being disappointed.
All right. So Tom, what did you think overall of the releases? What's your winner? What's your loser for the year?
Fire Slayers would be my loser.
Boo! Boo!
Poor Kenny. Kenny has just felt the disturbance in the force. Yeah,
I love you, Kenny. But I would say this because I wanted to love Fire Slayers. I was actually in the middle of painting a dwarf army when they dropped. Like, you need to remember this. Like, I was in the middle of painting like hundreds of dwarf models, and they dropped, and I wanted to love them, but like the price tag, which in general that's not that big of a deal. But it was the price tag combined with the awkward poses and the lack of competitive, like what a competitive army needs in a tournament play. They don't bring those particular things, especially at their point cost. And so I just I look at it and there's just a lot of other armies that I would rather have first, and that's really sad, but it's true. And I just know that if I got the Volkite Berserkers, I'd end up having to convert all of them because their arms are all kind of crazy. And so I just, they're my loser. So my winner for the year.
And by the way, that doesn't mean they're necessarily all bad.
Right. No,
they could be the lowest of the year and still be a 6 out of 10. Right?
Yeah,
it's just somebody's got to be at the bottom. Sorry, that's how this goes. Yeah, and I do think you're right. They're better. To Dan's point, I think they are better than some of the ones from the year before, where there was So
yeah.
I think your valid points is the points you've raised actually, and why you picked it are completely valid. There's nothing wrong with that.
The irony is that to put things in perspective, I actually sat down and charted out how much I would spend if I decided to buy it. So I looked at the kits, I figured out what I was going to buy if and when I was going to buy them. So to put yes, they are my lowest, but they're still really good.
Right.
Okay, so I think the biggest win was probably actually the Ironjawz.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
When I look across, it's a competitive army. It's not really competitive, but it has brought some competitive elements to the scene. It's a super compelling, visually interesting army. I mean, so much so that when I got the option to buy in, I jumped in. I'm in. I mean, and I don't know when I'm going to paint those. It's going to be 2024 before I get to those models. And okay, they're great models. It was a great deal. And so what I would say is this. That army was a combination of all of the right things. Aesthetically, it was appealing. It had links to the past, but it wasn't dominated by the prior kits. The rules were interesting. The battalions they offered were competitive, and they were well pointed, or fairly well pointed. Obviously, there are a couple overcosted models, and in general, they're just a fun army. Oh, and the other point, the final point, is that they were a good deal was offered with them. both the Getting Started box and then this Battle Force box. So GW incentivized people to buy in at the entry level. And so I think that's, for example, is what Fire Slayers missed. Had Fire Slayers had that, I think we would be having a different conversation as to the worst release of the year. But we didn't. And so I think they suffered because of it.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with your points. And honestly, your picks, Tom, are the same as mine. Even though I love the Sylvaneth and really do think that they were beautiful, and like Alariel may be one of my favorite models I've ever painted in my life, because she was just gorgeous from top to bottom. I think that the Ironjawz as a release were absolutely amazing. The number of people that went out and just like because they reinvigorated a whole army. It's not that orcs didn't have people who loved them. They did, but they were kind of like a non-starter, non-interesting entity in the world of, sort of the New Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms. And then in came these Ironjawz like a meteor strike, right? And just all of a sudden the greenskins were just back in it. They brought them up into the fluff. You knew what they were doing in the story. They had this cool new look for an evolution of the Force. So to me, I would love to see that template just carried forward. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know if you obviously found that there than in America, but I know from the UK scene, so many Ironjawz, so many players, so many club gamers, people who picked them up just because low model count, really cool theme. The rules are interesting. I think the play is interesting enough, and the destruction traits that most people were running on them were given, a nice gimmick that works as it is. So, I can see that. That's a good shout.
Yeah, we certainly, within my personal group of like our 4 players that gather regularly, one of them was right on board. That's for sure. Like, so now I have them regularly staring down hordes of brutes charging across the table. So that's always fun. It's in the larger sense in my community, yes, absolutely, tons of people jumping on board. All right, so let's pivot. 2017. What do we want to see? We know we've got Tzeentch coming. We know that's there, and that's great. Dan, what are you hoping to see as these releases continue? It could be a specific army, but it could also be just like a theme or the way you want to see things release or cadence or anything. What are you looking for in your releases in 2017?
It's tough. It's a tough question to answer. I could be really flippant and say that I'd love to see Lizardmen back as Lizardmen. That would be cool. It's probably never going to happen, but that would be cool. Apart from that, it's hard to speculate. I'd be doing one of those things where I'd be like, oh, I would really love knowing what was occurring. So I just hope that it's the stuff. I'm sure it will. The stuff that I hope is coming is going to be fantastic. And I think we're going to have another great year. You can see the progress that's been made with the battle tomes and things like that. And I think that with everything that's coming, it's obviously been announced. General's Handbook 2. Yep. Is coming at some point next year. I think that's going to be big. That's going to be great, and it's going to bring a whole new freshness back to the game. So that, for me, that's it. I just hope everybody jumps on board, continues to support the game, and enjoys what's coming. It'd be good to get everybody's take. Obviously, as Warhammer Media, as it's known, we'll be there covering everything and trying to give our opinion on it. But I'm always interested when you go to tournaments, and Adepticon, for example, is quite an early one in the year, isn't it? That you'll be at, Vince, I know, and it'd be good to see what people's feeling is there of the Tzeentch stuff that we know is coming and all that kind of stuff. And then as the year goes on, just seeing how it goes. So we could have another Ironjawz moment, or another Flesh Eaters moment where there's a book hits that's just lovely and everybody's excited about it, and you're seeing themes, you're seeing hobby on Twitter and that. And I suppose that's my hope for the year, that we see some more of that, really.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny you mentioned the Ironjawz moment, because it really was like when that release dropped, all I saw in my Twitter feed was people holding their boxes proudly holding their boxes of Ironjawz that they had purchased, right? Just like, or getting the models out, sprues, and like, just got this guy together. Like, that was Twitter for like a several week period after that release. Yeah. Tom, what about you, sir?
I'm gonna be. I would be remiss if I want to see my Spiderfang Grots. I do. I want to see some elves. I would be in for an expansion if they do go with Death Elves. I would be in for that. If they just go for like Dark Elves or like the Shadowkin Order some expansion of what's already there. Probably not. I really want Phoenix Temple. So obviously a lot of this is building on what, we already have, kind of threads that are already in the story. But yeah, I mean, those are drums that I've been beating on this year, and I'm going to continue to beat on until I get the models that I'm hoping that I'll get someday.
Fair enough. So here's my thought. So we know that from the stream earlier and in talking about the Tzeentch disciples, that Tzeentch's plan here is a little more nefarious, shall we say, than Khorne and Nurgle, right? Like Khorne and Nurgle are ultimately blunt instruments.
Yeah.
And they both ran into a bigger hammer, namely a hammer called Galmaraz, right? And were pushed back from the realms they had a foothold on. But Tzeentch, is very clever and has sort of, what we've learned is that he has cults that have infiltrated into the cities that have been built, and he's, festering the evil of chaos amongst the populations, right? We know all that from already. Yes?
Yep.
Okay. So what do human beings in the Warhammer world do when cults start popping up?
Witch hunters.
That's right.
Join them.
Yeah, well, both are true. Yes, exactly. Some people join them and some people hunt them. And if that bit, like, the second those cults get exposed, the next natural reaction is going to be for Sigmar to start up, the Order of the Witch Hunters, right? And I want to see the Devoted of Sigmar release wrapped around that, around those Inquisitors, those people hunting for the Tzeentch cultists that are infiltrating the civilization that he's trying to spread, to burn those witches at any and all opportunities. It just seems like a natural evolution of where the story goes from here to me. So that's my big hope. Seems like a good evolution of the narrative, and would fit right in and be a wonderful echo, perhaps, of the old world. So there you go.
I'm in.
Yeah. There you go.
I want to see any more humans. Would be great, wouldn't it? Let's bring back the Empire. No, but something like that'd be cool.
Bring back empires. Like, it doesn't have to be the Empire.
Minus the steam tank. I've never been a fan of that. Get rid of that. Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that. It would mean I'd stop facing it down every single week of my life. So that's a nice thing.
No. Kevin would still run Legacy Scrolls. Sorry.
He would. You're right. I cannot be free of it. All right.
Get rid of the Legacy. Boo.
No. I'm getting ready to do a Tomb King's army that I'm going to paint up. That's the next thing I'm moving towards. Don't get rid of the.
You're gonna
the seriously underpointed the Tomb Kings. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're gonna get people after you with torches there, man. Careful, Dan. All right, so let's talk about
HeelanHammer.com. You can find me there.
Check it out. You can send all angry letters. Yep, there you go.
Yep. Address them to Wayne. Wayne at.
He's gonna just suddenly get a flood of emails of like, "How dare you say I'm not allowed to play my Tomb Kings?" What? What is he talking about?
I really love Tomb Kings, and I think that as an aesthetic, they fit with a lot of the Black Library fluff that's been released in terms of the desert stuff we've seen and the Realm of Death. And if Tomb Guard weren't £90 on eBay, I'd be tempted to pick some up myself. I wouldn't play them as that. I'd play them as generic Death probably, because I from a serious point of view, I'm not a fan of the what we term as Legacy Scrolls, the compendium stuff as it is. But the models themselves and the theme of Tomb Kings were one of my all-time faves. I thought were a fantastic army. So it's a bit of a shame. Well,
we can all hope. Let's say 2019 reimagining of the Tomb Kings, Cetra's return. I'm looking forward to it. It's way out there, but it's coming. Just wait. Tzeentch is patient. He is, ever living. He doesn't need to rush. All right. So let's talk about, books. Now, we've already talked a lot about the Battle Tome, but let's talk about the General's Handbook, because you already mentioned it, and it'll be interesting to talk about General's Handbook 1 versus sort of, General's Handbook 2 and refinements and things like that. So let's really focus in on the GHB. Dan, obviously you might have had a bit of a hand, some involvement in that original General's Handbook. I think probably some more with General's Handbook 2. What do you think in the end were the successes, maybe the failures of the original General's Handbook? What are you hoping to see with GHB2? That kind of thing.
I think one of the most exciting elements, bearing in mind that I can't talk too much about it. The one of the most exciting things is that it's known because it's out there. They were looking for feedback, weren't they, on points or anything else that you might want to change. And the fact that this is coming out, they're talking about it now already, and it's being done is exciting for the game. If we think Warhammer Fantasy back, however long you've been playing it, if you had a duff battle time that's wrong. It was there, it was stuck, wasn't it, for 3-4 years. Now we're looking at potentially year, 18 months, whatever the time scale may be, of that being amended, which is really exciting. So I think that's going to be quite cool. I think that also there was all the other ways to play. I mean, we talk about points because it's something that a lot of us used, isn't it? And it's one of the big things that book brought to the game. But potentially there's loads of other things that could be done in there, because it was such a big sort of book of gaming, wasn't it, really? So
yep.
I think it was a success for sure, and I think that the next one's going to be good as well. It's going to be good fun. It's really tough because there's so much stuff I'd love to talk about, but obviously I just can't at the moment. But it's it's going to be great, I think.
Based on our prior conversation, I guess we can confirm that Tomb Kings are going to get a point hike.
I don't think he's saying that, but you can imagine that if you want. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think
if it was Dan Workshop,
right.
Yeah, if it was Dan Workshop and Dan was on them points, them Necro Knights would definitely have a point rise. Unfortunately, it's not Dan's Workshop, so you have to wait, I suppose. So see what happens.
Well, we'll see.
So, Tom, what about you, sir? What's your success, failures, and hopes for the next one?
I hope that this is not going to happen. I'm gonna open with that.
Okay.
I wish that we would see the point values from the battalions that showed up in the narrative play campaign books. I wish that all of our battalions, or as many as can reliably be moved into match play, were pointed. There are a lot of really neat battalions for Nurgle. That mix Nurgle demons and Nurgle Rotbringers and stuff like that in the campaign books from God Beast, from Balance of Power, that I can't run in match play, which is what my people play. I can't run them because it's not they're not pointed. And so I and maybe they have a separate status, much like the compendiums. Maybe it's a section of narrative battalions or something that are pointed, that have their own category if people want to rule them out for events and whatnot. I wish that some of those had points, is what I would say.
Yeah,
it's a very simple thing. It's a very small thing. All the here's another one. When I introduce a new player to the game, where do you point them? You point them to the getting started boxes. If your community is playing match play, they have this box, they have this new battalion, but they can't actually run the battalion because the battalion doesn't have points. Because none of the match play, none of the getting started boxes have points for any of those battalions. And it's disappointing because I want to be hey, play with your, hey, let's put some forces together. Oh, I have this awesome battalion that I already have prepackaged in the box, and then they can't play it. And the same thing for the battle forces. It's the same thing for all of the big army boxes that have released, King Valescu and all of those. None of them have points. And I wish we had points for them.
I think that's fair. And your point about the getting started boxes is, I think you're exactly right. I don't think you ever match play isn't the only way to play.
No,
not at all. And never in a million years would we say that. There's many, many valid ways to play. In fact, the valid way to play is whatever you and your group find the most fun. Period. End of story. That is all I will accept as the only valid way to play. That being said, it is one of the ways to play, right? And when you do something like buy that box, you would hope that all the components of it are useful, no matter how you would want to play it, right? And so I think it's fair for you to want that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Because I can just as easily get rid of the points and use that battalion in open play, of course, but I can't do the reverse.
Yeah.
Right. Unless we all come together and argue about the points.
Yeah, you could. You'd have to make a decision between you and your opponent. But yeah, you're right.
And it's always tougher to do that. I mean, to be fair, in a world where points exist, it is tougher for people to do that, to actually add points. Now, what I love, then let me trail this right into my success of the GHB. And this absolutely needs to continue into GHB 2. My favorite thing about the General's Handbook is not just the ways to play, but the nature of the rules being fairly modular and you being told point blank, don't use these if you don't want to. If you don't like the force org of like minimum battle line and stuff like that, jettison it. Okay? If you just want to use points, do that. If you just want to use the force org, do that. If you don't like these rules of 1, kick them out. If you just want to use the rules of 1 in open play, do that. Mix and match to taste, right? Like there are call out boxes, which as somebody who's done plenty of book layout before, for gaming books, I can tell you how important those are to me because it's a big deal when you put something in a call out box on a page. And there are call out boxes on there that say this implicitly. That is the most important thing to me because it really, instead of just burying it in like the back of the book or on the front page or something, it's right there in the stuff saying play how you want.
Explicitly.
Yeah, explicitly.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason why that would go away. But
no,
go ahead,
I think the thing with it as well is that I know I can touch on it because Jervis mentioned it in the interview that we've done for our show, but he spoke about the fact that the GHB really sort of set out the stall of what the game was and how it can be enjoyed. And I agree with you. I think it's the key thing for me is how some things were almost legalized, and people need that. They need to be told it's actually okay to measure base to base. It's actually okay to ignore the battle line units. Because otherwise you have this thing that used to happen for, as you guys must have known in previous editions of Warhammer, where it's people arguing all the time about intent. Whereas like, the intent's clear in the GHB, isn't it? There's no grey area. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what those boxes are, because that's the authors directly communicating to you, the player, what their intent is, right? That's why it's so important, because that can get lost a lot in like rules text and just that kind of descriptive text. But that box aside of those moments where they pull you aside and say, look, here's what we think, here's what we're trying to say. Enjoy yourself how you want. So I want to see that continue. What I want to see, my hope is to see more campaign support stuff that can be used across, like that sits kind of over the 3 levels of play. Like the map campaign idea that was in there was super cool. I loved it. I want way more of that. Map campaigns were always my favorite way to play. We did a bunch of map campaigns out of the original General's Compendium. I'm sure, Dan, you remember that one from back in like, 2000 or something, right? But that was like, we did a bunch of map campaigns out of that. I loved them. I want to see more of that. I want to see like where I can move across the mortal realm and take, more named things and get bonuses for my army and grab that territory, big maps, different maps, all that kind of stuff. And it's one of those things where I'm not creative or artistic enough to do it, like to make whole all these maps myself. But if it doesn't end up in the book, then my challenge to the community is that's an easy thing for us to make happen. So somebody who's artistically inclined, reach out to me with some sweet maps and I'll help you write some rules and we'll see what we can do. There you go. Because it is, in the end, somewhat all of our responsibility. In the end, we're all going to be able to produce more than one studio it can, even a studio the size of Games Workshop. There you go. All right. Time for as with any good year in review, it's time for the in memoriam section. I would like, since I can't play music through a Hangout, I would like everybody to just picture Sarah McLachlan's Angel in your mind as we move on to talk about our next thing, which was The Last Chance to Buy and the Made to Order. So obviously it's the life and death struggle just captured in model form, The Last Chance to Buy and Made to Order. So we had obviously lots of things go on Last Chance to Buy, including, all of the Tomb Kings and all the Bretonnians. But we did it. We've also gotten now the Made to Order, where some old figs that were maybe in metal, they're back again. Right. So it giveth and it taketh. It's all that. So Dan, what are your thoughts been on, the retirement of those models, on the Made to Order program, that kind of thing? And is there any model that you have a particular love from the history of Warhammer that you would love to see in the Made to Order?
I think the Tomb Kings, just generally, I was surprised they actually went off on Made to Order. Yeah. Obviously, we're not privy to the sales figures to know whether there was a reason for it, but They fit for me. They fit so well, and there's Black Library covering them. I'd love to see them come back because I would use them in my Death Army. I could certainly do a desert themed Death Army. So we touched on that earlier. I'd like to see that. And yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Whether they come back in, I think it's great that they're taking orders. Basically, what do you want to see? We'll see. You know, if there's something popular, we'll do it for you. And I think that's a great approach. But yeah, the Tomb Kings was a surprise to me. Actually, I think it's always sad. It's obviously sad to see the Bretonnians go because they were so iconic in 5th edition and through the other editions, really sort of capturing the essence of what Warhammer Fantasy was all about. But I suppose we're not playing Warhammer Fantasy anymore, so we're in a point where that's, see you later, move on. We've got Stormcast and other cool stuff to get on with from that sort of thing. But yeah, Tomb Kings, I'd love to see them back. They'd be cool.
I dig it. I certainly dig it. As a collector and somebody who has both of those armies, my Bretts are like right there, and my Tomb Kings are over on that side. Certainly, even though I don't necessarily want any more, I was sad to see them go, certainly. But I think
how many
Tomb Kings,
you have, like what, 15,000 points of painted Tomb Kings?
I have 12,920 points as of the current GHB of painted Tomb Kings. There you go.
Nice, all on square bases.
One High Queen Khalida is on a round base.
Yeah, nice.
I tried to convince Vince to bring his Tomb Kings to a tournament where we both brought Tomb Kings, like in a team game, and he won't rebase them.
Ain't nobody got time for that. All right, Tom, what are your thoughts on Last Chance and Made to Order, and what do you hope to see hit the Made to Order in 2017?
Well, I don't need any more Tomb Kings. Like, here's just a shelf of just some of my new in-box stuff, like down here. And then I have I probably have 10 grand Tomb Kings, something like that, 10 or 12 grand that are all gray plastic except for my Nagash. So I don't really need Tomb Kings. I would love to see some of the like singular hero kits re-pop back up. Like Thorgrim is one that I always kind of bang on that drum, like the Finecast Thorgrim. I would love to see that to show back up. Some of the Bretonnian kits, the Green Knight, just some of those really iconic, just beautiful kits. I'd love to see some more of that, especially with Total War having dropped this last year. I would love for them to do kind of a shout out, like for those models that show up in that game. Like Thorgrim is another prime example of this, as a playable character. Like for those that show up to have those purchasable again for that community that may be joining us. So.
That's a good call. I dig that. All right, I'm going to be I'll be very simple with mine. Obviously, the Last Chance was sad to see those armies go, but I don't look at it like that. I look at it like both those model ranges were not like old. Yes, there were some newer kits within TK, but there were also a lot of old things in there too, right? They go back 10, 12 years. The Scorpions and some of the like the caskets and certainly that Bone Giant. Oh boy. That terrible fig. So, like, it's okay. Here's the thing. You know what I see in the movies every year? You know what's at the movies every year? It's what's old is new again, right? Like Star Wars just came out. A new Star Wars. Just give it time. What if it was a good idea once, it usually ends up being a good idea again sometime in the future. So my guess is we'll see a new version of like some kind of knightly, Bretonnian style army at some point in the future. There'll be a new cool take on it because somebody will have a great idea and will make cool models. And I'm down with that. And I think it'd be the same thing for TK or some version of them. I'm hopeful because what we've seen here is that they're willing to try lots of crazy stuff and evolve forces in lots of crazy ways. If these Tzeentch forces we've seen so far don't show that to you, right? With a bunch of bird beastmen riding discs, firing bows. Let's just pause for a moment to realize what I just said. We live in a world now of bird-headed beastmen, great bow-wielding beastmen, all as a unit riding discs of Tzeentch. That's the world we live in, folks.
What's your point?
My point is that the world is anything is possible. Okay, so like all these ideas have come back again. Made to Order. I love it, and obviously I love that they brought back the Juan Diaz Demonettes.
Yeah.
When they did. That was the big win to me. Here's my ask for Made to Order is simple. When the inevitable Devoted of Sigmar release that I described comes up, okay? Like when that all happens, I'm just going to assume I'm correct and that's all coming. Then the Made to Order that needs to be sort of in line with that is the Sisters of Sigmar from Mordheim, correct? Which are all metal, and those molds have got to be sitting around somewhere. Get those back out, crack them up, and bing bang boom, you have got the greatest weekend in the history of Warhammer right there. Let me tell you what, I'm all about it. So that's mine. Okay. All right. So did you ever play Mordheim, Dan? You a Mordheim fan?
No, do you know what? It's one of the only Games Workshop games that I didn't play. A massive Necromunda fan, but never really, never picked up Mordheim. Just didn't sit with me thematically for some reason.
Gotcha. Too dark and brutal, perhaps. It was it was way down in the muck. That's for sure. What I'll say is, well, maybe when we get new Mordheim, maybe you'll get a chance there to get back on it, which is a great segue into the next thing I want to talk about, which is the boxed games. Right, this has been a great year for that. I'll wander from the 40K ones, which I don't have as much experience with, but obviously we've got Blood Bowl, we've got Silver Tower. You mentioned you were just putting together some Blood Bowl. So how have you found Silver Tower, Blood Bowl, etc., Dan?
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think that they've both been massive successes, or at least it appears so from the sort of community feeling that I've got, and then talking to gamers a lot. But the two different releases, I think I get the impression Silver Tower was really exciting for a lot of people, but I've not seen many people play all the way through it. We had a group of us who did 4 weeks in a row, got halfway through, and then I moved and we haven't picked it back up. And we're definitely going to try and finish it. But I don't know about how replayable it is once you've done the 8, because it's quite a slog to get through it. But potentially, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. For me, I always had a fond love for the original Warhammer quests, so it was always going to be a tough one to live up to. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend anybody getting it. The only thing I found for me is a hit and miss in terms of the difficulty. Some of it felt like you could have just gone to the end and collected your £200 as you went past go, and some of it is like ridiculously difficult, and you think, well, I'm never going to get through this room, and it was a bit hit and miss on that front, but good game. And Blood Bowl is obviously a classic, something I've not played a lot of until recently, and yeah, really enjoying that. I think that's a really cool game.
Do you have any particular, if you could pick one boxed game to sort of be this new release or get the boxed game treatment, a classic or something new, what would you want to see in 2017?
It's a tough one. I'd love Necromunda would be easiest because it's one of my all-time favorites, but I'd worry it would get the Silver Tower treatment sounds like a derogatory term, but I don't mean it like that because it was obviously a very good release. But in terms of it was stripped of some of its previous flavor, and it's effectively the same name with something different, with a different feel. And I wouldn't want to see that on Necromunda. I'd want to see Necromunda, with cooler new models and awesome new, cardboard scenery or whatever, that kind of stuff. But box game, yeah, it's tough to know. Epic might be quite cool, I suppose. That would be quite exciting, just as a side thing.
All right, I can see that. Tommy, what about you?
Mordheim. Like it is a non. I mean, Vince, like when AOS first dropped, Vince and I devoted a month to basically spitting out an AOS version of Mordheim, and it was a lot of fun. And I know that a number of people, a year and a half later, are still playing it. We stopped development on it when Specialist Games, the Revival Specialist Games, was announced, because we knew that that it's only a matter of time with the arrival of Specialist Games that a version of Mordheim is going to come back. So we stopped messing with it. But that said, it's still our all-time favorite game. All right, it's mine. I don't know about Vince. I'm pretty sure that he's a big fan. Yeah.
I would also agree with Mordheim. From a design perspective, it is one of the, I would argue, I made a video on this, so I have argued, that it is one of the best designed games of all time. Yep. From a purely game design perspective. So, but I agree with you. Like, Dan, I think your point is very well taken, because Necromunda, like, Mordheim really drew on what Necromunda laid down, right? Necromunda laid this foundation down, and Mordheim really built upon it. The fact is, they're very similar games, right?
Yep.
And I would agree with you. Like, I would have the same fears. I have no problem with Silver Tower. I had a great amount of fun with it. I thought it's been awesome. One of the best thing they did with Silver Tower was release the rules for like those 40 additional heroes, right? Because all of a sudden it gave you a lot of different fun ways to experience the tower. We could never get more than 2 pieces, like doing 2 nights with it, because everybody wanted to change heroes and try new heroes, which was fine. We still got a bunch of weeks out of it. We still played it, fairly recently. We just keep trying new heroes, and it's like, whatever. We have a good time with it, and I think in the end that's all that matters. We're never going to collect the whole Triforce apparently, or whatever. But I would fear, like, I wouldn't want it to get that treatment. It'd have to be a very different type of box game, because I would want it to still be like you play it on a table and it's got some scenery in it, and like something like that, right? I would want it to still be that feel, that style of game, not the board game style.
Right? That's it. It's the RPG element, I think, that I would worry would move. So we found that with Silver Tower. I loved the. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys ever played Quest, but if you did, do you remember the White Dwarf articles about going to Lustria and all the trading posts and all that? And I loved that depth. And obviously that all got stripped away from Silver Tower. You could put it back in if you wanted to write your own stuff, but I wouldn't want that to happen to Necromunda. I don't think. I'd be sad. It'd be sad for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's yes, I do absolutely remember that. And I love that type of thing. And that's what I want to see, that sort of concept preserved, right? And with the way White Dwarf is now, we're primed to be able to do that again, right? Because they are putting out supplementary information for like these box games in the White Dwarfs. So that would be my hope. I'm with you. I'm with you on that completely. All right, so we're tentative on that one. I think your idea of Epic is quite good, by the way, because Epic is the kind of thing that would fit perfectly into a box game release in my mind. And I think there's a lot of people out there who have a deep love of Epic. So I think that would probably actually work. All right. So let's, our final look back item for 2016 and look ahead to 2017. And I think this one's sort of ending on a high note. And that is community engagement, Warhammer TV, the Warhammer community, everything like that, but not just what Games Workshop has done, probably also the larger Warhammer community itself, TGA, all these kinds of things. What's been your experience in 2016? What's your hopes for 2017, Dan?
I think 16's been new ground, doesn't it? It started off the community team all booted up back onto Facebook, back onto Twitter. They covered the South Coast GT that we ran to the point where you could one-click bundle the winner's army and things like that, which is all cool things. They shared our videos, and then they've been Blood and Glory recently. The whole of the Warhammer TV lot were there the whole weekend live streaming Table 1. So we were just in a completely different world to we've ever been, and that's fantastic to see. I mean, years and years ago, we did see Games Workshop staff used to attend tournaments. They might write up in White Dwarf or something like that, but there was never to the degree where it is now, where it really feels a little bit like we're moving into a zone where computer gaming is, where there's a media element to it, and there's always been a bit of that with Warhammer, but nobody's really had the resource, I think, to do it, properly. And Games Workshop, at this point, I think, are learning quite. I've seen mixed comments about what they're up to, but what the overriding fact I've seen in terms of technically how it's been done, but the overriding theme for me and the positives that are out of it is everybody's really happy that they are doing it, and I think that is really exciting. I mean, Eddie, Rob, and the whole team there have done a brilliant job. They're really funny guys, aren't they, as you've seen on the videos, and they are in real life, and it really shines through. So yeah, I just think hopefully more of the same.
I totally agree. Tom, your thoughts?
I hope that this is ushering in a new era of community engagement. Like, obviously it is. Like, let me say it that way. It is. But I think that with Twitch and with where we're at, I mean, I really think we're on the edge of something new. How this is turning into a spectator event through Twitch. And like, I just wonder, like, the sky's the limit with that type of coverage and events and tournaments and involvement and stuff like that. Like, I just, it makes me sad that we're on this side of the pond. Because the amount, I mean, honestly, because the amount of engagement that we in America are going to get, or Australia or any of the other countries, is significantly lower than obviously the UK. But that said, like, it's awesome that, I mean, they're going to be, GW has a presence at Adepticon this year. Yeah. So, I mean, and so they're going to be at events. They've announced the Las Vegas Open, I believe, on their website. like on the Warhammer community, like so that like they are engaged with the other event and the event schedule, but it's like I'm hopeful that we will continue to see this kind of trajectory that got launched this year.
They definitely got me to change my schedule to make sure I was there Wednesday night. That's for sure. For the we're gonna spoil the summer of releases or whatever. So I was like, oh, yep, I'm on board. I'll be there. I'm gonna be hunting down the guy with the tickets for that event. That's for sure. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. I went back and listened to some of our show from last year, and one of the things we talked about was we really hope the community engagement stepped up to the next level, right? And I mean, looking at this past year, I think we can all agree we have gone light years from where we were even a year ago, right?
Yep.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And so I'll tell you this. Here's the real benefit of this to me. And it's something that clicked for me earlier today, is that it grows the number of people engaged beyond just playing the game, period, with them being involved. And what I mean by that is that they're the sort of the matrix or the set of people who go out to Twitter, who listen to podcasts, who watch YouTube, who post on forums, whatever your particular brand of engagement is. That matrix of people is smaller than the set of people playing the game, right?
Yes. Yep.
We know that to be the case. And because like not everybody, some people just play with a couple of their friends. They don't really engage much. Maybe they surf around a little bit, but they're not really engaged, right?
Maybe they listen to podcasts, but they like that's not touching the YouTube community or
whatever. Yeah, maybe they're not. Yeah, maybe they're not engaged across multiple platforms. But by Games Workshop getting involved, if that person goes out and starts watching something on YouTube, maybe they watch that on YouTube and then go, well, what else is around? Or they watch on, they listen to a podcast and they're like, well, what other podcasts are around? You see what I'm saying? Like, because what I found is that you never stop with just one thing once you get into one of those mediums, right? If they're on Twitter, who else is on Twitter, right? And they start getting involved, they start getting engaged with more people. And here's the thing that enhances, I don't mean to sound like a corporate shill, but it enhances the stickiness, right? Like that's a big deal. Not all in a bad way. I don't mean that with any negative connotation. I just mean like it's easy if you're not engaged with the hobby. It's easy to get sad or kind of float distant or kind of walk yourself out of it, right? And then we all lose you from the community, right? Yep. Whereas if you're engaged, even if you're not actively playing at that moment, and you do have that constant source of feedback, you're talking, you're enjoying, you're participating in the hobby in some way, you're going to tend to stick around. And that's good for all of us. Right? Not just for Games Workshop, because I'm sure it's great for them because they stick around longer and buy more of their stuff, which is fine. But I'm more concerned about more people staying in this community, continuing then to tell their friends. And what happens is those two bubbles expand.
Yep.
Right. And they have the sort of cross-platform presence to help push that. So I think that's probably that's a great thing from my perspective.
No,
Dan,
I think it's good.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great just to be in that area that we can expect. It's been a bit bizarre, I suppose. That everybody, let's say everybody, you felt that online that people would comment about the fact that they didn't have a Facebook, they didn't have a Twitter. Okay, they haven't got a Twitter, but they've got a Facebook and all the other mediums. They've got Twitch and everything. And it feels more like that computer game style engagement where they're out talking to people. I know we've talked about it a couple of times. Cheap plug, but the interview we've just done with Jervis, it's never been that kind of thing's never been done, and it's great that they're willing to do these things, because as gamers I think we all want to hear about what they feel, what they think. They're the guys that do it. We sit here chatting about this like you guys do. Spend hours a week chatting about Warhammer for other people's benefit, and it's great to hear from the people that actually make the stuff what they think. And you can see from Rob and Eddie and the team and that how much they enjoy the hobby. I don't know if you guys follow Eddie on Twitter, but he's got some fantastic stuff that he does himself. So these are all hobbyists like us, and I think it's great just to be able to talk to them. I know other people, Darren Lathan, Citadel Miniatures Design, has been on Twitter for some time, lurking around, and he listens to podcasts and watches all the different bits and pieces and that. And they genuinely, these guys want to be out there and talking to hobbyists. So it's great to be able to see them be able to do it, really. So yeah, really exciting.
Absolutely. All right, so let's close it out like this. Here's what I want from both of you, okay? I want your best moment of 2016 wargaming related, right? And your crazy prediction for a singular event in 2017. You may make it non-serious, but here we go, okay? All right, Dan, you're on the hot seat first. Best moment 2016, your crazy prediction for 2017.
Well, the best moment, is it personal best moment or
your personal best moment?
I suppose for me, it would have to be, I'm super, super lucky to be invited to work on the GHB, the General's Handbook 1, was able to go up there, play Jervis Johnson, work on the game, albeit in, a minor point, but be able to work and do that and have a continuing involvement in that. It's been a fantastic thing. When I look back at me as a 12-year-old getting into the hobby, thinking all these years further on, the stuff, I know I did an article for the Warhammer community on sort of my journey, that we did mention that with the Warhammer community website, but that's just been recently launched. But I did an article for the opening of that, and just on the journey, and it's amazing to see where that journey's gone. But yeah, that sort of eclipsed it, I suppose. That was the point where I thought, this is amazing, being able to do this. So that would be my hobby moment. It's a very specific moment, but yeah, for me, it was obviously great.
Exactly what I was looking for. And I can't even imagine. Absolutely. I think that's a well-deserved best moment of 2016. You're probably winning most of that, most of that contest. All right. Your crazy prediction for 2017. Go ahead.
What would I like to do? What would crazy prediction? That they re-released Lizard Men. There we go. We said that earlier. We'll joke with that. Yeah, they come back. They've been all this time. They actually remembered where they left the pyramid with the real Teto Echo and all the rest of it. And it turns out it was somewhere in a Southland style pyramid temple, and they all came back. That would make my Christmas, I think. Yeah.
There we go. I love it. All right.
Hiding somewhere in the Beastlands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Turns out there's a jungle somewhere, and they'd all been just chilling with spawning pools. None of this memory, starlight shenanigans. It'd all be good.
Yep, just real flesh and cold-blooded lizard men. All right.
That's what we want to see.
I love it. Tommy, your best moment of 2016, your crazy prediction 2017.
For me personally, my best moment was Vince and I going to Holy Havoc. Leading up to this was my first kind of one of my first major event with Warhammer, public event with a number of personalities. And I remember going and planning and thinking and doing strategy, and Vince says, don't worry about it. But it's not like we're going to actually place it all, or, it's not like you're going to win this thing. And then Vince and I,
to my credit, I was right.
You were right. You were. Although we tied for first best overall, and we placed second in 3 of the 5 categories. So we did pretty well. And so for me, that was a fun kind of entry into the community, both performance and hobbying and just the whole shebang. And then my crazy prediction. I'll go back to, we had talked about the image of the Tzeentch and the normal dwarf fighting. So we know that Tzeentch is in Shimon, in the plane of metal.
Yes, the land of Michael Jackson, correct.
Yes.
Right. He's in Shimon.
Yes. We know that he's there. We also know from the lore that Sigmar, when he went to find the dwarves, and was it Grungy that was there? And that he just found he went looking for it wasn't Grungy, it was and there was just empty dwarf holds. And then somewhere else we've seen in the lore that there's been twinkling lights occasionally seen in the skies above Shimon. So my prediction is that so we're going to get the Tzeentch launch, and then I think soon after we're going to get the Steamhead dwarves. And what has happened is that the dwarves retreated from their holds in airships, and they retreated above the land. And then they're going to go fly to the Valkyries, come in on their bombers, and lay waste to some Tzeentch and reclaim their holds. I think that's what we're going to see.
Sounds pretty cool. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
I love the idea. It's great.
Power armors and just punching blue hordes in the face.
During the live stream, they mentioned there are still civilizations and people who live out in the mortal realms who avoided chaos. And he said or found creative ways to hide. And when he said that, I was like, come on, Tom's idea be true. I would love that if that was the case. I don't think you're right, but I hope you are. That's what I'll say. 'Cause that'd be sweet.
where better to hide from a Birdman than higher up than him in the sky?
Yeah, he's got a maximum altitude. Yeah, just they're all on helicarriers. I got it. It's shield
Yeah.
style.
Like, it would be amazing if they came down in power armors and gyrocopters. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. For me personally, 2016 best was just AdeptCon this year in general. It was a great time. Dan, I got to meet you for the first time there. It was great to hang out with everybody. I'm looking forward to an awesome AdeptCon this year. Getting a model into like the final voting for Crystal Brush was pretty fantastic. So obviously that was a big honor, but everything around that weekend was just probably like the absolute nerdgasm of hobby wargaming for, 3 solid days of elation. My crazy prediction for 2017, well, that's obvious. Since everything in the UK is a monarchy, that's how I assume it works over there. I don't really know. I'm just going to go ahead and go off of this. What's going to happen is, in a weird King Ralph style accident, I will accidentally be handed the reins of control of Games Workshop. Like, I'll be someone's distant third cousin twice removed. And since everything just passes down by bloodlines, boom, I get control. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about with a King Ralph type thing, I'm sorry you haven't seen one of John Goodman's best movies, but there you go.
Awesome film. Yeah.
So there you go. That's my prediction for 2017. I look forward to being the company's new beneficent overlord. It should be fantastic. All right. So, Dan, final thoughts as we go out. Just want to say thank you very much for coming on the show. As always, it's great to wrap up the year with you. We'll have to make it a real holiday tradition, but of course, thank you very much for being on here.
That's all right. No worries. I enjoyed it. Hopefully it's been of some interest to the viewers, as I know I've skirted around quite a few subjects, but hopefully there's been something in there that's been worthwhile. We don't want to get you in trouble, and we appreciate you taking the time. Tom, any final thoughts?
It's been a good year. It's easy to get focused on the negative. And, it's been a good year for the hobby. And the reality is that that looks like we have another good year lined up. And so go find a new army, start collecting, build some models.
I love it. Final note from myself. Do not forget about the Warhammer Weekly Extravaganza of Giving. Link is below. Don't forget to vote in the YouTubers End of Year Awards survey link will be below. And finally, I myself will be over in the UK on, I'll be at Warhammer World on the 13th of January. So if you're watching and you happen to be in the area, I'm going to hopefully, fingers crossed, be able to just hang out at Warhammer World from the time it opens to the time it closes, since this might be the only chance I have to ever go there ever. So I'm just going to be there. So if you happen to be in the area and you want to hang out or say hi, please do. That'd be great. So there you go. For everybody, as always, thank you very much for watching. Dan, thanks again for coming on. And to all of you out there, we'll see you next Wednesday.